So it was discovered during his time, and Zephaniah was prophesying also during his time. So later on we would see that the book of the law and the prophecy of Zephaniah has a close relationship, which we'll be discussing later on. And also among the prophets in the Old Testament, Zephaniah had a very detailed genealogy. Well, there's no consensus as to the reason why it was so detailed, but it's mentioned in chapter 1 that Zephaniah was the son of Cushi, son of Gedaliah, son of Amariah, and son of Hezekiah. So 4 generations, and there are some scholars that say that Hezekiah right here was King Hezekiah, but some scholars say, well, if it's King Hezekiah, then why is he not addressed as King Hezekiah in this passage? And some scholars would say, well, you don't have to address him as king because he's a famous guy anyway in the Bible. But there's no conclusion as to why it is so detailed in chapter 1. So this is his historical background. And on the literary side, so the book of Zephaniah is an oracle. But what I want us to focus on here is the relationship of the book of the law, which was found on Josiah's time, and the prophecy of Zephaniah. As I have put in here, it says here that there is a wealth of phraseology paralleling expressions between Zephaniah and Deuteronomy. And to show you some examples, in Zephaniah chapter 1 verse 13, it says there, they will build houses but not live in them. In Deuteronomy 28:30, you will build a house but you will not live in it. Zephaniah 1:13, they will plant vineyards but not drink the wine. 28:39 of Deuteronomy, you will plant vineyards and cultivate them, but you will not drink the wine. At 1:15 of Zephaniah, it talks about day of darkness, clouds and blackness. Deuteronomy, black clouds and deep darkness. Zephaniah 1:17, they will walk like blind men. 20:29, will grope about like a blind man in the dark. 1:18 talks about fire, jealousy, and the whole world will be consumed. And Deuteronomy, it says here, they made me jealous, for a fire has been kindled my wrath, and I will devour the earth. So, and the list goes on. There's a lot of phrases that are so similar between the prophecy of Zephaniah and the book of the law. So, what's the implication of this? Next slide. Now, the New International Commentary of the Old Testament, or NICOT, it says there that Zephaniah prophesied immediately after the discovery of the book. Like, generally, this is the accepted explanation to that. So, in other words, Zephaniah served as a prophetic helper for Josiah to make his reforms. It's like when they found this ancient text, the book of Deuteronomy, someone has to interpret it in the context of Josiah's time. If you remember, Dr. Go gave us this illustration about an engineer, a train, and a train track. And he said that prophets during the Old Testament served as an engineer. They have to make sure that the people are aligned in the track, which is the Torah. And that's what Zephaniah did during his time. He had to make sure that the way Josiah would interpret the book of the law for his reforms would be aligned in their context during that time. So that's why his prophecy is so similar. So its basis is what they found in the book of the law. So that's the literary context of that one. Theology. Next slide, please. There. So 4 points in here. It's a very short book, 3 chapters in all. First one, like what Shuling highlighted a while ago in Nahum, the day of the Lord. So it says there that the day of the Lord is not like rejoicing and all, but in first chapter, the day of the Lord is judgment, punishment, that you will be judged. This is going to be dark days during their time. Next is God's sovereignty over all nations. In chapter 2 of Zephaniah, God dealt with the neighboring countries of Judah and Israel, the Assyrians, Moabites. So God is saying, yeah, you might be worshiping other gods right there, but let me tell you, I'm your God as well. I'm the one who's going to judge you. I'm sovereign over you as well. And then in chapter 3, it says here that God's discipline covers His chosen people as well. So God was judging them, and then God directed Himself to to Judah and Israel, wait, you don't relax right there, I'm going to judge you as well. So I'm judging them, I'm going to judge your work at the same time. But after all these Day of the Lord message, at the end of Zephaniah, it says there that the Day of the Lord also brings healing and restoration. So there will come a time that you will be restored as a nation. There will come a time that healing will be provided. So this is the theological message of Zephaniah. But what I want us to remember about him is that he served as a prophetic engineer or helper so that reforms would be done in the right way. Insights? Next slide, please. There. So what I saw in this book is this, that God would not leave his people without hope. Okay, so it's like God is saying, yes, it's going to be dark. It's going to be a day of punishment and judgment, but there's hope. And time will come that Judah, you, my people, will be restored and eventually be healed and be going back to me as your God and as your Lord. I think that's all for Zephaniah.